Buenos dias, Ruth here, and it is the overview for Spanish 1, Unit 7, Week 3. Now, we are going into La Sala. So this is a fun week that you really want when you're studying the vocabulary, get them to act it out. A lot like last week, el baño. So you want to connect them because it's a lot of verbs this week. And what we want to do is connect it to the modal verb, querer. Yo quiero mirar la tele. Yo quiero relajarme. We want to start connecting that modal verb for them because then they really just need to mobilize it in the infinitive form. Because what we want to do, we're building slowly on our language. First, you want to get them to understand what the verb means in the language. So that's why we're doing drama, we're acting it out. There's a lot of repetition in the worksheets this week, and there's a reason for that. We want them to look at pictures that demonstrate the verb. We want them to write the verb. We want to connect the verb to some of the things in the house so they have that connection. All of this builds understanding for your kids, and we want them to act it out. So, in preparation, what you want to do, again, you really need to have props and sentence strips already written. So write out sentences that will cover mirar, hablar, jugar, leer, y relajar. Okay, because those are the things that you're going to be connecting to the pictures in their workbook. So write, yo quiero leer un libro. Yo quiero leer la revista. Yo quiero leer el periódico. Now, you don't have to write the whole sentence out every time. You could write the sentence and then just have the words and kind of put them over each other with a magnet or a piece of tape. Flip them through. But you really want to have these written out so we can act them out and they can be looking at the words. All right. So, the other thing I want you to do is when you're questioning the kids, ¿Qué quieres hacer en la sala? Structure the question the same way you want them to structure the answer. Now, this is really grade level appropriate. In second grade, we teach kids how to answer comprehension questions by looking at the question and then starting the sentence by taking a portion of that question and starting the sentence with the same structure that was in the question to answer it. So, what did the boy like to do with his mom? Say that was a comprehension question in a story. You would put the boy likes to do with, the boy likes to read with his mom. So it's the same, ¿Qué quieres hacer en el baño? Yo quiero bañarme. You want to use the same structure in the question that you want them to use in the answer. This is super important, and this is something that we continue in levels in 3 and 4 as they get more complicated. You need to give them an anchor to where they want to start with. Okay, then what we want to do is repetition, repetition. That's what they're going to learn from. And then, hey, where are those wow moments? I've heard from a couple of you, want to hear from more of you. How are you reaching those hard to reach kids that are struggling? And where are you finding those wow? I'm doing some research on what keeps kids engaged in video games. And what's been so interesting is that if a child doesn't experience a certain amount of success, they quit. They don't like the game. They don't want to engage it. They don't want to come back to it. Now, I think this is really super important as we're doing language, especially immersive language, because it's more difficult. They're trying hard to build understanding, but they have to have those moments of success. So when you're dealing with kids, if they are at all faltering, give them the answer, make it a learning moment, and esteem them. Because the more success that the kid experiences, the more they will stay engaged and press through when it's hard. You'll actually get more endurance out of them than less. Now, I'm not saying make it super easy all the time. Immersion is not easy. But what we want to do is not have them experience failure over and over and again, because then you have kids that will sit back and just kind of allow themselves to be overwhelmed. Okay, so let's get into some specifics. On day 1, we're going through the target cómodo y incómodo. Use that all week. Be funny about it. Sit in a chair and be like, oh, esta silla es muy incómoda. You know, and then like sit down in a cushy chair with cushions. Esta silla es muy cómoda. So what we want to do is play with that language all week. Talk about your clothing that's, you know, uncomfortable and comfortable. Talk about chairs, or bring, you know, you have a picture of a bed that's comfortable and uncomfortable. Use pictures, make them guess, all of those things, and then ask them questions about their bed or their t-shirt or whatever. Okay, in the calendar time on day 1, you want to focus on the house. Ask them questions about their house. Take them back into the vocabulary. One of the things I also wanted to say is you did some assessment on time. If your kids really struggled with that, go back to it this week and give them some more instruction on time. For pronunciation, get these words on day 1 written on the board. You want them looking at it, because every time we hit pronunciation, I want you to see the word phonics in there too. We're teaching kids to read as well as pronounce the words, okay? So these are tricky words. They're long for Spanish 1 kids, and we really want them to learn how to break them down into syllables and have good pronunciation when they read. The dialogue, as I mentioned before, have it written on this sentence strip. You really want to have them play around with that. 3 brothers or 3 sisters or 2 brothers and a sister line up and the mom says something. But change that around, and that's why you need a lot of sentence strips already built out following the target vocabulary list so that you can change up this dialogue. Okay? Pages 72 and 73 are the vocabulary development for that day. So have them read through this together. You're using querer as a mobile verb and gustarse in the worksheets. So have them connect it to a picture, and in the directions it says cut it out with scissors and glue it on. Don't do that here. Just have them draw the picture over here, or they can kind of just even draw a line over, but we want them to fill this in and they can follow along. This is where you can have them point to the vocabulary and connect it that way, and then they can go back in and draw. Okay, day 2, thing I want you to hit on is those oraciones completas. So that is on page 77. And filling in the article and circling the noun, and then find the error, and then fill out the space, the adjective in here that is cómodo. So comida, cómodo. Love what I saw. Salud had actually written all 4 examples up, and then she was crossing them out, but really making an emphasis. Masculine, feminine, singular, and plural. That's the point, guys. Getting them to really hone in on that and be aware. Day 3, let's see. Oh, and on day 2, the character or the vocabulary development is Pictionary. This can also be charades. The whole thing is to have fun acting, drawing the vocabulary with articulation, okay? So you want your teams saying what it is, not one sentence or not one word in a whole sentence, okay? Day 3, we go back to dictation of those words you worked on with day 1. So can they actually spell the word? Go ahead and have them do this on a piece of paper that they can turn into you. It's a quick assessment for you. Are they really developing those phonetic skills? Dialogue again. Then we're going to move into building a book. This is a 3-page book. So start on page 74. And you can draw a picture of La Sala here and then start doing the individual pictures that go with the sentence. So build the sentence. And I would build the sentences of what they're writing, and then let them go back and draw their picture, okay? If your kids are very, they need a lot of support, then just do it 1 picture at a time. But the problem with that is some kids will want lots of detail, and some kids will just draw a box and say that's the television. So I will let you manage that yourself, but what you want to do is kind of shoot for the middle. Got kids that are moving fast, ask them to do more detail. Kids that are moving slow, give them a time limit. I'm going to give you, ya tiene un minuto para hacer la televisión y vamos a seguir. When you give kids a time, have a timer there, that's great. Then they have an idea of what they've got to work with, and that can help you move the train along. Okay, day 4, we want to do the second oraciones completas on page 78. Going to do the dialogue. And then, and pretty much it's the same thing with oraciones completas. And then go ahead and finish in la sala on day 4. It's also nice because you can use some variable. Now, when you're doing this, if you have more advanced kids, they can fill out the sentence themselves. And then you can spend some time on day 4 actually letting the kids get up and read their story out loud. Even if they have it all the same, it's nice to give the kids the opportunity to get in front of the class, use their Spanish, and read and show their illustrations. Let them be proud of what they're doing. And always, always have the other students clap for anyone who's willing to get up and share their language, their writing, and their illustrations. So that's all for now. Give me a call if you need anything. But remember, lots of repetition, lots of thinking through how you're structuring your questions so that it's consistent with how the language you want them to mobilize in the answer. And then keep looking for those wow moments so that you can encourage and esteem your kids. Okay? Hasta luego.